So Rachel, you're good to go.
Hi, everybody. Can y'all
Hey,
hear me through
Rach.
the mask? Can y'all hear me through the mask?
Why are you wearing a mask? We're not with you.
I hear you.
Because I'm sitting in the city offices and the IT guys are in the room with me.
Oh my God. Well, I'm impressed. You commuted anyway.
Yes, I did.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. Well, it's so good to see everybody's faces. How's everybody doing? Everybody's feeling well?
Doing
We're
fine.
all like, yes, thumbs up. Awesome. So we have a little bit of a different protocol. We have to officially call roll. So I'm going to call everyone's name. And when you hear your name, just say here. So Steve Bacon. Oh, you'll have to unmute yourselves so I can hear you as well. I see you, Steve. You just need to say here.
We're doing a roll call, Steve.
Doing roll call.
I'm here.
Rich Buckner.
I'm here.
Thank you. Tom Cartwright. Don't see Tom. Sam Gant.
Here.
Sam Huffman. I thought I saw Sam.
Sam, you're on mute.
Sam, you're on mute. Hi, Sam.
Sam, can you say here?
Sam, I unmuted you, so you should be.
Amanda, did you hear Sam?
I did not. I can see him
Can you
trying
hear
to
me
say
now?
here. There, yes.
There
yes.
you go. We hear you. Hi, Sam. Say here.
Yeah, my audio is breaking up, and
Okay.
my iPad reformats now and again. Maybe I'm out of range of my Wi-Fi or something.
But you're
Getting
here.
Kind of spotty.
of here, so
Say present for me. Eric Jacobson. I don't see Eric here. Pam Lewis.
Here, present.
Yay. Alma McLemore.
Alma's sister died, and they have the visitation this afternoon.
Right.
Yeah, it starts at 2 o'clock.
Mary Pierce.
Here.
Clay Perry.
here,
Bob Ravner.
Here.
Alan Sims.
Here.
Scott Speedy.
Here.
Tim Stillings.
I'm here.
Megan Weisinger.
Here.
Blake Wintry. Blake. I see him.
Blake, can you unmute?
Sorry. Here.
Thank you. And then Rachel Finch is here. Thank you, everybody. So before we begin, I have to read a resolution since we're doing our commission meeting via Zoom. So I will read it, and then I will need someone to make a motion and then someone to second it. And then I have to go through the roll call again individually. So just everyone be patient, and we appreciate everyone's patience in advance. So to entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-63, a resolution declaring that the Civil War Historical Commission shall meet on May 14th, 2020, and conduct its essential business by electronic means rather than being required to gather a quorum of the members physically present in the same location because it is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Who would like to make a motion?
I so move.
Seconded.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
I was.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can we say who those
Please say
names
your
are out
name.
loud, please, for the record?
Yes. For the record, Sam Gant made the motion and seconded by Rich Buckner.
Thank you.
All right. So, Steve Bacon? Yes or no?
Yes.
Rich Buckner?
Yes.
Tom Cartwright is absent. Sam Gant?
Yes.
Sam Huffman?
Yes.
Eric Jacobson? He is absent. Pam Lewis?
Yes.
Alma McLemore is absent. Mary Pierce?
Yes.
Clay Perry?
Yes.
Bob Ravner?
Yes.
Alan Sims?
Yes.
Scott Speedy?
Yes.
Tim Stillings?
Yes.
Megan Weisinger?
Yes.
Blake Wintry?
Yes.
Rachel Finch? Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Can you hear me?
I can hear who just.
This is David Egan.
Oh, I'm so sorry. David, your name was left off of the roll call. So let me write you in. One moment.
I am sorry for that.
All right, let me know. I'll take the day off.
No, please don't do that. David, you are present, yes?
Yes.
And for the resolution, you vote.
Yes.
Thank you, David. I apologize.
Thank you, David, very
That's
much.
all right. I'm having, my laptop will go to Best Buy when the appointment time to get the camera fixed. I don't know. It's just not working well.
Now I have one more announcement to read, and the announcement is for limited public access. Due to COVID-19 outbreak, this meeting will be a virtual meeting. The public may call 615-550-8420 to listen to the meeting and make comments during any public comment period. The public may also email comments to planningintake@franklintn.gov to be read aloud during the meeting. Emailed comments will be available until 1 hour prior to the meeting. The meeting video will be available for public viewing 24 hours following the meeting on the City of Franklin Facebook and YouTube accounts. Now we are going to entertain a motion to approve the March 14th, 2020 minutes. That is when, that's the last time that we were all together. So,
And it's March 12th.
And that is March
just
12th.
To clarify.
yes.
I move to approve the meeting.
Rich Buckner, so moved.
Seconded, Alan Sims.
Thank you. Now we're going to go through our roll one more time. Steve Bacon,
Yes.
Rich Buckner,
Yes.
Sam Gant,
Yes.
Sam Huffman,
Yes.
Eric Jacobson, Pam Lewis, did Pam somehow slip off?
I believe we lost her connection.
Okay.
So we will need to mark her as absent on this
On
particular
this
vote,
particular one? Okay,
I believe.
okay. Miss Alma McLemore is absent. Mary Pierce,
Yes.
Clay Perry,
Yes.
Bob Ravner,
Yes.
Alan Sims,
Yes.
Scott Speedy,
Yes.
Tim Stillings. Tim, you're on mute.
Yes.
Thank you. Megan Weisinger,
Yes.
Blake Wintry,
Yes.
Rachel Finch, yes. Thank you, everyone. The next on the agenda are the items for discussion. Item 1 is discussion of potential memorandum of understanding between Save the Franklin Battlefield and the City of Franklin Parks Department regarding historic cemetery restoration. And that will be led by Amanda.
Hi, everyone. I appreciate the time that you all spent reviewing all the items that I sent to you ahead of time. I know there were quite a number of items on the agenda, so again, I appreciate that. If Kelly would, I would like to ask to have permissions to share screen so I can pull up the item. The item, as Ms. Finch mentioned, is the draft memorandum of agreement. This is an item, it is in a draft form at the moment. We are needing to add a signature block for Save the Franklin Battlefield, and there are a couple of other small changes that we would, just very minor changes that you can see redlined that we'd like to change. But ultimately, the proposal, as you all may recall, was brought forward by Commissioner Lewis, and I regret that she dropped offline and can't speak to it any further, but ultimately the proposal was to have a pass-through entity that could collect donations from the public that could go towards cemetery restoration, specifically for the city cemetery and the Rest Haven Cemetery, both of which the city own and maintain. Both cemeteries are listed on the National Register of Historic Places for their contributions to the history of the community and their respective ages. City Cemetery is one of the oldest cemeteries in Franklin, and Rest Haven Cemetery has specific ties to our Civil War. Both are, I'm very much paraphrasing and summarizing their significance, and I'd be happy to elaborate on that more, but both are in significant need of preservation. And Brian Walker, who is joining us from the Parks Department as one of the liaisons to the Commission, and I have been working with the Commission for several years now to seek impact or input from the Commission on how to best provide that preservation and maintenance for those cemeteries. Ultimately, the cemetery subcommittee, the Historic Cemetery Subcommittee, has been doing a great job in providing some of that input, and we have worked to bring forth to you today this memorandum of understanding because Save the Franklin Battlefield has been so generous as a nonprofit organization in our community to volunteer to serve as that pass-through. It's a very simple agreement. The gist of it is that the Save the Franklin Battlefield would receive donations that would be earmarked specifically for the preservation and restoration of those two cemeteries, and those funds would be then given to the City of Franklin to complete those identified improvements. Those improvements would be identified in our Parks Master Plan or in our Preservation and Maintenance Plan that the city completed several years back. The improvements would be limited to burial marker restoration, ironwork improvement, dry stack stone wall maintenance, burial marker cleaning, implementation of new fencing, walls, or signage, and other restoration efforts and ongoing maintenance. The city would decide how those earmarked funds are utilized, and all work would be completed by the city. Save the Franklin Battlefield does not want to disperse the funds in any way other than just to provide those to the city to complete the work. I do not want to speak for Save the Franklin Battlefield. We do have Sam Huffman here, who is our representative on the commission from Save the Franklin Battlefield, who I'm sure would like to speak to that. But we do present this to you today for discussion only. We are not ready to vote on it because it has not been vetted through all the proper channels, but we wanted to get your feedback before we move any further. I ask if you have any questions before I close the screen share so that we can see everyone's faces and have a dialogue.
Amanda, are these, is the work done at the cemeteries required to come before the Historic Zoning Commission?
It depends on the work that is proposed. So typically burial marker restoration is not something that we have brought through Historic Zoning Commission. Dry stack stone work may, depending on the type of or the complexity of the work that would need to be done. Definitely installation of new fencing and walls would go through Historic Zoning Commission, or new signage, certainly.
And there's a lot of iron fencing. I'm just wondering if somewhere a sentence needs added for work done in compliance with the Department of Interior standards for restoration and rehabilitation, just something that gives it some expectation. I mean, I know Save the Franklin Battlefield would want that expectation, and I think the city would too, but something in there to keep it on people's minds, I would make as a suggestion.
Okay, I certainly understand that. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that comment very much.
Yeah, I have a question. The effect of our vote here, whenever we get to the point where we're going to vote on this, would be just as a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to adopt this, correct?
Absolutely. This definitely would need to be approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So the full commission would need to provide a recommendation to the board. I would like to close the screen share. Does anyone want to reference anything specific in the document where they need to see the document? I think I provided it to everyone ahead of time digitally, but I know sometimes it's hard to look at things on the screen while you're looking at everyone else. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone that needs to see it. Okay.
Amanda?
Yes, ma'am.
Before we go on, I just realized that, again, David was not listed for the minutes. So may we backtrack and ask David how he votes on the minutes for March 12th of 2020?
David, I am so sorry about that. With 18
That's
members
all right.
and alphabetized, I just messed up. I am so sorry.
No problem. I think with my phone, I've got visual that you can see me now.
I can see you.
I can see you. So yes, I'll vote yes on the motion.
Thank you so much,
you.
David. And thank you, Amanda. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the second item are our subcommittee progress reports. And that will be from me and Rich Buckner. And
Well, if we may, Rachel, I hate to interrupt, but I would like to ask Sam Huffman if he has any comments or questions about the proposed agreement, since it would be with Save the Franklin Battlefield, and that is the organization he represents on the commission.
Of course.
Yes, a couple comments. One, I'm running on an iPad today, and it's kind of strange to me. Also, it's breaking up and restarting and goes to mute every now and again. So I have moved closer to my Wi-Fi box. And
Well, we hear you well. We hear you well. It sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, on the topic, the resolution there looks fine to me. Amanda and I would have to arrange sometime how the payments would actually be made and where they are sent and that type of thing. But we're glad to help in any way to raise funds for the cemeteries. So I don't see any problem at all with the agreement. Sam, did you see anything that?
Mr. Huffman, would the arrangement in your opinion, need to include the way that those payments are made, or would you feel more comfortable if that was separate from the?
No, it wouldn't have to say how the payments are made
Okay.
in the agreement.
Okay.
This is Sam Gann. I think it is fine. I think it's excellent. And as a member of the Save the Franklin Battlefield, I'm very much in favor of our doing this.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments about it?
Our board did vote at a prior board meeting to approve this. I mean, to approve the arrangement, not the exact details of it. So I don't see any problem going ahead with it. We have received one donation, but we have not deposited that check because we didn't want to do anything like that until we had a go on the project. But I think we're all set to go on it as soon as this board gets it squared away with the city.
Okay. Well, that's great to hear. Well, thank you very much. And I don't believe that our city staff has any more questions about it. We would, it looks like Pam's connecting. We'll wait to see if she has any comments about it. But ultimately, we will need to add a signature block. And I have talked offline with Save the Franklin Battlefield about how they would like that to look. But once we have that ready, we will be able to present that to them just to make sure that the entire nonprofit board feels comfortable with it. I know that we have Sam and Sam both here that are on that, represent that organization. But Sam Huffman as our organizational representative for this commission, but we would like it to have it taken as an official document for their nonprofit organization board to look at an official capacity, get their blessing and signature before we would take it to our city board.
Amanda,
yes,
adding the language that work be done in compliance with the Department of Interior standards, do we need to make that recommendation, or how could we get that to be part of the document? I guess I've been around too long and I've seen things happen that weren't.
Well, this is not the last time you guys will see this.
Okay.
I will add that in. I will add it in, and it will need to come back to this commission for an actual official vote.
Okay. Okay.
Will that be the next meeting?
It will likely be the next meeting.
So if we've already got donations coming in, let's get this going.
Yeah, we didn't have it quite ready yet. This we've got to do everything in due time. Rachel, it looks like we have Pam back.
Yes, I see Pam.
Pam, are you there?
I am.
Do you have any comments on the proposed memorandum of understanding with Save the Franklin Battlefield?
Well, you know how I feel about this since I initiated it. I'm happy that it's moving forward, and I'm sorry it took so long, but I understand. Things take time.
Okay. Well, I know that you cut out, but we did want to reiterate that it is, it sounds like everyone's excited about it. And there was one recommendation that we add that the work be done in compliance with the Secretary of Interior standards, which I will add in before we bring it back to the commission for an official vote. So
perfect. Yep.
You'll look forward to seeing it again soon. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Hey, Amanda. While we're on the topic of cemeteries, I sent you an email, and I have a feeling that you didn't get it, but Mary was copied on it. Got a phone call about another item, and was told that people have been walking their dogs through the city cemetery. And I said, well, let me bring it before the city and see if we can't get a sign up in the historic cemeteries preventing people from exercising their dogs in the cemetery. Because obviously, creating a mess in the cemetery. It's kind of disrespectful.
Well, let us talk about that in, yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Let's talk about that in our Parks Department announcements. Perhaps Brian has some thoughts on that.
Okay. Just wanted, while it was on my mind, to
Okay,
mention
thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Amanda, are we good to go on to our second item for the subcommittee's updates?
Unless anyone else has any comments, I have finished everything I needed to provide.
Does anyone else have a comment or recommendation or discussion item they would like to speak on for the memorandum of understanding between Save the Franklin Battlefield and the City of Franklin Parks before we move on?
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is Mary Cruz Fincher. I am the attorney that supports this committee. And I just wanted to let you guys know that Amanda had presented the MOU to me about 2 months ago and given me a draft to work with. And I am the reason that it got held up as long as it did. She was very diligent about corresponding with me about the questions I had and things that needed to be fleshed out a little bit more. And I just wanted to let you guys know that it was, with all the COVID stuff and everything happening, that it got a little delayed, and it was mostly my fault on that. And I just wanted you guys to know that. That was all I had to add.
Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate your work on it.
That's sweet, Mary Cruz. That wasn't necessary, but thank you. It's very sweet.
Thanks for your help on the document.
Yes, we very much appreciate it. We know you're slammed, so thank you.
No problem.
Amanda,
Yes.
Save the Franklin Battlefield signed a similar memorandum of understanding where we raised funds for the carriages on the square. And that, it might want to take a look at that to see if there's any pattern or verbiage that ought to be included in this one.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any. I mean, I'm just suggesting that as a source of material.
I will definitely look at that. Thank you, Mr. Huffman.
Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our subcommittee progress reports for public outreach and interpretation, and that's going to be me today. So for everyone who is on our public outreach interpretation subcommittee, I had worked with Amanda to send you all some key questions for discussion on how we wanted to move forward with the cell phone audio tour. So does anyone have any questions about that? If you are on that committee, feel free to speak up now. We're still needing some transcripts for Hard Bargain and the Macklemore House. And would anyone besides Scott like to volunteer to transcribe those two stops?
And the reason for that is because Scott has transcribed 2 stops already. He did an amazing amount of work for us. We really appreciate that.
So in transcribing the 2 stops, we listen to the audio and just transfer that to text?
Yes, the reason that those aren't transcribed is because several of the stops were created by the City of Franklin for City of Franklin sites originally when the tour was began around 2012. Over the course of time and through some Leadership Franklin class initiatives, several stops, I believe about 4 stops were added that are not city sites, but they're very important sites like Toussaint L'Ouverture Cemetery, which consists of 2 stops, Hard Bargain Neighborhood and the Macklemore House. And the city was not provided with those written transcripts. They were only, the city was only provided with the audio. So we do not have written transcripts for those to be able to analyze and make determinations on any necessary amendments or alterations in order to
Okay.
be able to edit the content.
Sign me up for those 2 transcripts. Be glad to do it. Tell me when you need them by.
Okay, Tim.
Great, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Thanks, Tim.
When do you need those? When would you like those by?
I don't really have a date in mind. I don't know if Rachel does. It's certainly something that we can talk to you about offline.
Right.
Fair
How
enough.
about we speak via email, and then we'll create a time before our next subcommittee meeting.
Okay.
Have them accomplished. Doorbell.
It's the plumber. I'll be right back.
Okay.
And don't keep him waiting. That's important.
Yeah.
Also, I know our subcommittee for public outreach and interpretation had identified and mutually agreed that the Masonic Hall should be added to the audio tour. So I will provide the text for the Masonic Hall. But I also think that during our subcommittee meetings, we've discussed several other key sites that could be added, because we have 2 other audio spots that we could add to the tour. So could we add Roper's Knob, the historic courthouse, the public square? So those are the things that the Public Outreach Committee has been working on. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they would like to add?
I sent an email with notes to Amanda that she has with some recommendations too. So talk about the Fuller story, and I don't know if we want to designate the monument to the enslaved in this Carnton Cemetery. But she has my notes. I also mentioned, I think, Collins Farm.
Okay.
Since the DAR, it looks like the DAR is going to be taking that over, there might be a reason to at least have a little bit more information about that site. I don't know. She has my notes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I didn't know if you wanted to discuss them at all today. That was part of the reason that we had the item on the agenda, is to see if anyone wanted to discuss any of that openly for the benefit of the entire commission.
Well, I think if I'm recalling what I said to you, which was, I don't know, a few weeks ago, but I'm wondering if Eric needs to re-listen to Carter House in Carnton. And I know that they've expanded tours, and as they do more research and are offering different interpretations and different subject matter, he may want to expand or rewrite what he's got written.
Yes, and I can certainly reach out to him about that and see if that's something that that he would be interested in. And for the record, Ms. Lewis is speaking about Mr. Jacobson, who is the CEO of the Battle of Franklin Trust, which administers Carter House in Carnton.
Yeah, sorry.
Carnton.
Just assuming. I don't know, like, okay, so I'll just go through some of the things I remember and what I sent you. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, Amanda, but I listened to all of it, and I had made notes a while ago. I know that we were concerned about Jim Hayes' recording regarding Harlansdale, and I think the consensus was we wanted to keep Jim's voice since he's passed away, and he obviously grew up at Harlansdale. I had someone listen to it and see if we could adjust the background audio, and they weren't able to do that. But my question is, I bet because of Jim's involvement with WAKM, I would be pretty sure that he probably recorded that at WAKM, and I'm wondering if we could show that to Tommy Jackson at WAKM and to his engineers and see if they might be able to clean up the background audio, if they could help at all.
Okay. That's a really good suggestion. That's something we can look into. I know that I had asked some of our audio techs in our communications department if that's something they could clean up, and it's just not something they had the technical ability to do. So
Yeah.
if it was recorded at that studio, they might have the capacity to do that.
Yeah, they may still have the tracks, is what I'm thinking, Amanda, and that's what you need. You need to be able to separate the tracks. I mean, I'm not an audio engineer, but just people I know who are. I remember Tucson kind of went on and on and on, and it's obviously a very important site, but it could be cleaned up a little bit and not quite so long, because it sort of drug on a little bit. And I'm just wondering, I think we have a record of how long people stay and which sites are more important. And it seemed like Tucson was a site that people kind of moved on. And I think initially there was some conversation that perhaps the
Yes, we do
explanation
have some.
went on a little long, maybe. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I think my my internet cut out a minute. I'm sorry if I interrupted you. I thought it was a pause. We do have some statistical information that we can reference that indicates how long each stop is being listened to and how often it's being listened to, as well as the just the typical listenership, like if the listenership is coming from specific area codes. So all that analysis has been provided to me for different periods of time, whether it's for a single month or it's for an entire year. We can break that down through our vendor Guide by Cell, and we'll be able to use that to the best advantage we can in determining, if we need to provide smaller chunks of information or if there's more interest in particular stops than others in order to gauge, how long the stops can be, or, what the most pertinent information we should and can provide at those stops can be in order to engage our public and our visitors the best we can.
As you're talking, Amanda, and I hadn't thought about this when I sent you that email, and I wonder what the committee would think of this or the commission would think of this. Do you think it would make sense? And again, I'm trying to look at this from a visitor's perspective, but would it make sense to have just a short intro on overview of the history of Franklin? Just, it was founded in 1799, just real quick. And why it was founded, and the rich farmland, blah blah blah.
I'm sorry, I keep muting because there's some noise outside my office. I don't.
Do you know what I mean?
That would be problematic at all.
Just an intro, Amanda. Just like a short intro, because like if I was going to visit Franklin, I'd like to know, okay, well, when was this place founded, and why was it founded, and why here, and the railroad, all that. Just really a brief, like Franklin 101. And if they want to do a deeper dive into the individual home sites and individual stops, they can. But I think that might be a really good way to it would be almost an intro to our city, if you will. And we could touch on, the Native American, that it was a former settlement of Native American, and the Harpeth River and blah, blah, blah. We could just sort of talk about early settler, the Camerons and people like that.
Definitely. I definitely would love to get, different cultures and viewpoints introduced for certain. Are there any other, and Rachel, I would love to turn it back over to you to see if there's any other folks on that subcommittee that would like to bring anything forward.
Does anybody else on our public outreach interpretation subcommittee have any other comments or thoughts that they would like to share with the whole commission?
My cat's got a piece of tape on the back of her foot and she's going around in a circle. Hold on a second. Eudora, come over here.
I think if no one does, Amanda, then I'm happy to move on to wayside or wayfinding signage.
Okay. Rich, would you like to take over? Rich, you are on mute.
You are on mute.
I couldn't get it off. Okay. On wayfinding, we did not meet in April for obvious reasons, but we did send out a questionnaire to the members asking them some important questions as we move into working on the historic core. We got a lot of those responses back, but if you haven't sent a response back to those questions, it would really be helpful even now to look at that and spend a couple of minutes and just kind of respond.
because that's going to be one of the topics of the May meeting, which we very likely will do in a virtual reality, virtual meeting as well. Our next move is to move, we got to pick up the Mac Hatcher corridor, but then we're going to move into the historic core. And that will be the focus for the most of the rest of the year. We're pretty much on schedule. I don't think we're terribly delayed with the schedule and that type of thing. So we're close to keeping on where we wanted to be with the committee. So I think things are in good shape and we keep moving forward. That's all I have.
Did you want to talk about or just bring up the questions that you submitted or that you shared with me that you would like to discuss? We had a couple of commissioners that provided answers to me, and I'd be happy to even ask them to talk about their thoughts on those. And the folks that didn't have time to share their opinions in writing can certainly share those now if they'd like.
Okay. The first question was basically everyone's definition of the historic core. It certainly includes the blocks downtown, but does it also include how far does it go, and does it pick up Macklemore House? Does it pick up Carnton? Does it pick up Lotes House and Carter House, and how far out does it go? The second question was regarding transportation and how we're dealing with it. We've dealt so far with automobile transportation, but we were talking about we also need to include walking, and do we need to include bicycling from a wayfinding standpoint? And then with that respect, how do we address parking for vehicles and for bicycles? Should we want to consider bicycles as well? And the last question was, should we include public transportation and wayfinding from public transportation in our considerations? So those are the questions that we wanted to move forward to. We kind of got, as we go into the historic core, we have a little different focus on where we are with the whole process of wayfinding, and the fact that now we're dealing with getting to very specific sites and how do people park, as opposed to just guiding them basically to the historic area. So any comments that somebody wants to bring? Sure.
I know Megan and Bob had some thoughtful comments they shared with me, and I'd really appreciate it if they would share those with the commission now. And then if Mary and who else is on the commission, Pam,
Pam.
And Steve, if any of you have any comments as you're members of that commission that you'd like to share right now, we'd be happy to hear those as well.
Hey, Amanda, this is Megan. Go ahead, Megan. Sorry. Okay. I apologize in advance for any background noise you might hear. But I thought that the first question was really interesting as far as like defining our historic core, because I know that includes what we're considering the historic district as far as like Main Street and downtown, the 16 block historic area. Thank you. And I would really like to see the historic homes included in what we're considering our historic core, because I think it helps from a visitor perspective. I think it helps our visitors connect the entire sort of Civil War history to a larger area in Franklin, rather than just saying, here's our historic district, and it's it's Main Street and it's shopping and it's dining. Well, there's a lot more history to it than that. So I think including those houses would really help kind of tell that story. And then for the transportation signage, I think the city does a really good job with that. And like, you know, for parking, I think it's clear. And I also think, you know, all of the signage for the trolley stops is great too. I think I had a question about the types of signage that we're talking about for bicycling. Rich, I don't know like where the questions came from, but can you sort of clarify what you mean by that signage? Like, are we talking about like individual signs placed that denote where you can park a bike, or like where you're going with a bike? Or
I really don't know. It was just something that in some of the reading I did, they talked about bicycling to areas, and it was something that I was going to bring up to the subcommittee on how we address it and if we address it.
Yeah.
You know, giving directions if you're on a bike to get to Carter House or the Masonic Temple, you know, and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Or does the road signage suffice in working with for bicycles as well? It's something for the subcommittee to just address.
Okay, yeah,
Rich,
that was my only question about that.
Yeah, Rich, I think that bicycles have to comply with regular transportation standards. So unless there's a designated bicycle trail, roadway, I think staying out of that would be the proper thing. And I always designated the core as anything inside Mac Hatcher.
Okay, that's good.
And that's for the purposes of how we've treated our analysis so far. That's kind of how we've handled it, honestly. It's kind of been inside Mac Hatcher, outside Mac Hatcher. And inside is kind of where we've postponed because we've all recognized that it's more of a special analysis. There's a different type of wayfinding that will be needed because it is a more hybrid pedestrian and vehicular necessity than on the outside of Mac Hatcher. And so Rich has been very astute in how he's organized the information. I certainly could not do this without him organizing the information and moving forward and breaking up into chunks and moving the subcommittee forward. And, you know, these thoughtful questions are, you know, just kind of mentally preparing us on how we're going to start visualizing and dividing those different areas into chunks that we can chew off and tackle in a way that we can bring forward a really strong plan forward to the board. And I will say Rich has done such an amazing job and he's doing a lot of background research. And I've had some independent research on a semi-related item, and I've shared some of my articles I've read with him. And I know he's been very engaged, and I very much appreciate that.
Thank you.
You know, I would just add that you know, I agree with the historic homes and inside Mac Hatcher, but as someone who wants to continue to promote more walking and biking, I don't think we're anywhere near where we could be ultimately in creating a more pedestrian kind of environment that we could ultimately get to. And the question around parking was an interesting one because I may have missed it, but while we're not currently set up for easy biking throughout Franklin, I don't think there are any parking stanchions set up at any of these locations. And so it's something to think about down the road is if we want to continue to promote something like the pedestrian and biking to one place or another, parking will become one of those critical elements that we can just get some parking stanchions factored into planning as we start to build out anything.
And
Well,
one
that
of the
was,
things
that
that
was
we
the point of kind of thinking, starting to think about this is to think it more globally and not just about vehicles, automobiles or trucks.
And one of the things we have continually tried to remind ourselves of as we've gone through this process is that we'd like our signs to be adaptable enough that we can add other considerations as we do embrace more of these things moving forward. So if we do need to add to a sign to address cyclist parking or even vehicular parking, it's easy enough to add to the sign at a later date if the sign doesn't currently have that once it's installed.
And Ms. Chair, just for the record, just want to note that Commissioner Lewis has been able to rejoin. Hello, Pam.
Yes, thank you.
I know that there's been talk also that, down the road that there may be satellite parking where actually people pay, that they park off-site outside of the historic core, and maybe there's buses or shuttles or some way so that we bring them into downtown and they have the opportunity to visit, but we don't have the problem with parking downtown that we have now. So that may be a long-term, the city or the CVB or somebody would have to acquire property that could be off-site parking. And I don't know if that's in the works down the road, but I know it's been discussed.
I can address that if you'd like.
Please.
We are looking at paving the parking on Fifth Avenue that the city owns, that is just south of French's Booths and just west of the cemetery. And there will be availability there to be able to pull buses in.
Perfect. By Bicentennial Park.
Yes.
Perfect, yeah.
Yes, on Fifth Avenue North.
Yeah.
It'll serve as an excellent parking area for the historic cemeteries, and the wayfinding subcommittee is actually in its one of its last subcommittee meetings talked about that as an opportunity to sign.
Hey, Kelly, do you have any idea how many parking spaces they're thinking about?
I don't recall the exact number, but I think it was in the 20s.
27.
I know it's going to take priority.
I watched the Bowman.
It's an existing lot. It's not expanding the site. It's repaving an existing lot. So it couldn't accommodate much more than the 20 that Alan mentioned.
Do you know about when that would be done?
It's a project slated for this spring and summer, I believe. Alan, that's correct, isn't it?
27?
No, I don't think there was a.
So what you said? Sorry. You broke up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe the project's slated for late spring or late summer. Is that correct?
I don't remember what Paul said, but everything's approved and they got the money and it's like half of what they thought it was going to be. So.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch that meeting, but the last I talked to Paul about a month ago, I believe that was the understanding. It would be happening very soon.
That was my understanding too.
Okay.
Alan, are considerations being given to that in a flood area for the paving product?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not Alan, but I can speak to that.
Good.
Do we have any other comments or questions for the wayfinding signage before we move on to historic cemeteries?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich, for all of your work. Okay, historic cemeteries. Are there any questions from Amanda and Brian that you all want to address?
Well, I know that the Historic Cemetery Subcommittee was supposed to meet today, and I sincerely apologize that we can't. It's just not a good idea right now to convene to clean burial markers for the demonstration that we wanted to give. So we have postponed that until September. I hope everyone received that notification. But we do very much look forward to that, and we do hope that the situation's much better by then, so we'll be able to move forward with it. In the meantime, just to kind of keep momentum going, Brian Walker and I did talk and wanted to see what your suggestions might be for keeping momentum going over the summer. He did have something that he wanted to share with you. I did send that item out to you via email. I do have it available to share screen if you want to talk about it right now, but I'll turn it over to Brian and let him speak to it a little bit. Okay, Brian?
Yeah, yes. What we have is we've put together, from a signage standpoint, we've put together a draft of various recommendations, kind of the do's and don'ts and rules of what we'd like to see in the cemeteries. Pam, to address one of your earlier comments earlier in the meeting, number 3 on that is referencing animals, and it says no dogs, no cats, or other animals on cemetery grounds. So if we're able to move forward with this draft in the near future, that would be something that we'll want to take care of. But overall, I won't go through the whole list, but there's various things that we've pulled resources from other cemeteries around the country, and to take things that might fit our city cemetery and Rest Haven the best. So if you when you have an opportunity, look through those, and any comments you have, or if you think that there's something not on there that should be there, but by all means, please let us know so that we can have a very comprehensive document for our cemeteries.
And for the record and for the benefit of the public, it is really common for municipalities that manage cemeteries to either have a department that is specific to those cemeteries if it's managing enough cemeteries, and especially if they're active cemeteries. In this case, we do manage these 2 cemeteries, and we do have a couple of very small cemeteries that are not historic in nature as well. And the Parks Department does specifically manage these 2 cemeteries that are not active. And we work with the Civil War Historical Commission because there are ties for both of these cemeteries to the Civil War. Specifically Rest Haven Cemetery. And you are uniquely positioned for all the organizations that you're tied to and the expertise you provide to be able to provide us guidance as city staff to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to make those recommendations for preservation and maintenance. The Parks Department would like to move forward on creating rules and recommendations for these cemeteries because it is really important to post those for the public to be able to see. And so we had worked on those, and we do think that this would be, because we are not meeting in person and we can't deliberate quite the same way, it'd be a really good opportunity for you guys to look through these as our draft item and to do some independent research for other communities perhaps, and see if there's anything that you believe is great, anything that you believe needs to be worked on, amended, supplemented, that we can move forward on to bring forward to our own board that we can implement into our park system. And of course, we would need to print these and actually have them installed on signage in our parks so that, as Ms. Lewis mentioned, people would see that. I think Mr. Sims, if you're trying to talk to us, you're on mute. But so people would be able to see that there is it's not appropriate for you to walk your dogs through the parks for the reasons that Ms. Lewis mentioned. Alan, did you have anything to add?
No.
I think he was talking to someone in his house.
Yeah.
Okay. Brian, I'm sorry. Did you have anything else to add to that?
No, that was it.
Okay. Okay. Historic Cemetery Subcommittee, we have Blake, we have Alan, we have Bob, we have Sam, and I apologize if I'm missing anyone else.
Dan, Amanda.
Right.
We have David. It's hard because your picture's not showing up. I'm sorry. I feel like I am mistreating you today. I'm so sorry. Can't see your face anymore. You were on earlier.
I still see that I'm there, but Apparently you don't.
Do any of you have any questions or comments or any suggestions on items that you can work on? I know Clay is also on the subcommittee as well.
I'm
No.
not on the subcommittee, but I would add that we got some grant money at one time and planted traditional things like magnolias. And at the same time we were doing that, a citizen was planting pine trees in the cemetery. And I think a long range goal could be to please remove pine trees that are still left, and please consider planting more traditional Middle Tennessee trees. So that's not to do the summer, of course, but the fall. And that actually might be something people would make donations to Save the Franklin Battlefield for. Thank you.
Okay. That's a great suggestion. I know Brian is definitely more of the tree person than I am. He's an actual arborist, and he might have additional comment on that. But I was thinking more of independent type research things that the subcommittee could assist staff on working on over the summer.
Hey, Amanda, this is Tim Stillings. I've mentioned this several times before, but just to keep it in everybody's mind, the Boy Scouts of America, specifically the Eagle Scouts, have asked for volunteer opportunities. And I think with this subcommittee, this would be a good place for them to try to find a project or projects that they can assist with. So if I can, as member to the members of that committee, if I can facilitate that with the Boy Scouts, just let me know.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Are they, I guess they're postponing some things right now, probably, but maybe in a month or 2 or 3 when things are a little better.
Life goes on, so I'm assuming they're in the planning stages of
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. I appreciate that.
They can do, so just let me know.
Okay, well, Brian, put that in your ear too, so we can think of things that we might be able to.
Amanda?
Yes.
As we're going forward with signage at the cemeteries, since we're moving forward with the Save the Franklin Battlefield, a relationship, if we could add on the signs of information for people who are interested in making a donation, so they can, as they're visiting, they could actually know exactly where to donate.
Okay, I could definitely talk to Miss Fincher about that and see how we can accommodate that.
Thank you.
Just a question. Did you mean to add that to the agreement or on the sign?
On a physical sign outside the cemetery, if that was something that we can or can't do. I can talk to you about that offline.
Yes. Okay.
It just said if you're visiting a cemetery, you notice that there's something broken and you're there, and you may be compelled right then and there to do it. And that way they don't have to look for the information, or it would be top of mind, you know?
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's hear from our subcommittee.
I really have no comment. This is Sam Gant. I have no comment. I think that Brian, and I think we need to commend the Parks Department for the great work that they do and the great cooperation they have with the commission in doing the work on that.
Absolutely.
Here, here. Here, here.
You're very welcome. We're happy to do it.
I had a question now that they're paving that lot on the other side of the cemetery. If anyone, and Kelly, you may know the most, Alan, you may know if you've watched the meetings, if there are any plans as part of that to install any kind of a barrier between that parking lot and that side of the cemetery as part of that development. Like a fence or
like a buffer.
Yeah, a
buffer from all the commercial.
Yeah, well, just the parking, whether that's natural, hedge barrier or fence or stone wall.
Yeah, I agree with that. That would be really make it a lot nicer.
Brian, do you mind joining me in speaking to that? Brian and I met with engineering department to discuss how the parking lot would tie into the cemetery, because we wanted to make sure that it was appropriate and seamless. There is some concern about how grading would go, because the parking lot is significantly higher than the cemetery. And we wanted to make sure that the paving material was appropriate and that sort of thing. The landscaping is not being conducted as part of this project, is my understanding, unless anything has changed in the meantime, but it will be done supplemental to it by, I believe, the Parks Department. Is that correct, Brian?
Correct, yes. As far as the actual paving project itself, a barrier or fencing or any landscape is not part of that project. Once the paving is done, we will then look at opportunities, and when we have the resources to have some sort of structure. And I think the general idea now is some sort of fence through there, typically something, a more decorative aluminum fence that would go through there, and not so much a stone, because stone can be extraordinarily expensive to construct. But we are looking at some sort of barrier that would help define the boundaries of the cemetery to the parking area.
That sort of alteration is one that would need to be discussed in greater detail by more folks. It would involve the Historic Zoning Commission, and it would likely be discussed by the Civil War Historical Commission before it would be implemented as well. So that is one we would get more feedback from more folks on.
Well, it seems like it will need to be contemplated before the paving to leave the room. But is there not a rock wall that runs down that north side?
As far as paralleling Hillsborough Road, no, there is not.
Not parallel here, not Hillsborough Road, down paralleling sort of the river.
Yeah, yes, there is a stone wall that along 3rd Avenue where if I'm sure a lot of you remember where all the old fruit stands used to be down there. Yes, on the north side there is a wall, and as that wall moves from 4th Avenue to Hillsborough Road, in that corner it does turn and come back south for about 20 or 30 feet before it disappears. So there is a stone wall along that north side.
So Amanda, I'm a little curious about the landscaping. I only watched the BOMA. I wasn't there, obviously, and so I just saw Paul's drawing. But I thought he said this included landscaping.
It does and it doesn't. So the engineering department is not including landscaping as part of the way it's being bid out by the contractors for the installation, from my understanding of the last time I talked to Mr. Holzen about it. But it would include the installation as a separate billing through the Parks Department, because the Parks Department has more knowledge of the types of appropriate landscaping that would need to be placed there. If that helps explain it.
So this is where I'm going, because I did hear Paul say that the bid came in half of what they were expecting. So it seems like we got a lot of money we could play with to make the landscaping really pretty and make some sort of entrance into the cemetery. Is that a true statement?
I can't speak to someone else's funding, but I can certainly find out more information.
Okay, because what I saw in the drawing, at least, was there seemed to be a walkway from the parking lot into the cemetery. So is that part of that part of what they're going to do right now?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
So it'd just be like a sidewalk or something?
It would be a paved walkway, yes. And we did talk about how to soften that so it wouldn't be like a asphalt or a concrete walkway. And we talked about how it would tie into the cemetery so that it would come into a natural location that would tie into the
the appropriate sightlines and walkways for the historic cemetery.
Okay. Yeah,
Brian, do you have anything to
I
add to
agree
that?
on the wall thing too. I think that should be part of this somehow, some sort of barrier between the parking lot and the cemetery.
I appreciate those comments. As we move forward for the summer, however, I am still seeking some guidance from you guys on how you can work independently over the summer. Do you agree that looking at the rules and regulations draft that Brian provided to me to send to you guys is an appropriate item to work on?
Sam, yes, I think so.
Okay.
Clay, yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Alan, Bob, I'm sorry, you're not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Brian, you have anything else?
No.
Okay.
Are we going to talk about these during the subcommittee meeting?
We aren't having a subcommittee meeting today. We had to cancel that because we are not able to go out to the cemetery and work. There's not a way to social distance while working on the markers. So we did reschedule that.
Okay. I guess I didn't get that.
I did send that out. I apologize if that wasn't clear.
Okay. So do we want any feedback on these right now then, or wait until the next subcommittee meeting?
If you haven't had time to review it, we can certainly I can certainly talk to you guys individually through email, and we can set up a subcommittee meeting through a Zoom platform for a few weeks from now if you'd like. If you don't want to wait another couple months, I certainly understand that.
Okay. I did review them. I had a question about number 20.
Okay. I can pull that up if everyone would like for me to.
I just like some clarification on what it means exactly.
All right. So number 20.
Yeah, the last one.
And just keep in mind, this is a draft and we haven't looked at it in a while. So the city shall remove all decorations, flowers, flags, vases, ornaments, baskets by last Friday in February of each year.
And the reason I was confused, up above it talks about flags and how they'll be allowed for so long. And then I saw this, and I didn't understand how they related. And then what is ornaments and vases and stuff like that mean? You're talking anything that's temporary that's put on there? Is that what that means?
Brian, do you have any comment?
Yeah, as far as ornaments and vases, what we have periodically is that a visitor will bring something, a memento, and they'll place it on a particular grave. And you know, as they come to the cemetery and then they leave, well, of course, over time, any things that are left behind begin to deteriorate or just break down. And so that's what that number 20 is really. It kind of gives a firm deadline that as things begin to become unsightly, it gives us an opportunity to where we can have those things removed. And in February was used just really because as more of the end of winter. And before we get into spring, the idea was kind of think of it like a spring cleaning sort of situation to have as new growth, as grass begins to grow, any decorations or ornaments that were temporary in nature, they're removed. So as the grass begins to grow, we just don't have those things kind of laying around.
Okay.
Brian, this is Sam Huffman. When you say remove flags, that wouldn't include the veterans flags and a flag holder, would it?
No, eventually at some point, if they become tattered and unsightly, at that point they could be removed. Yes, but it's just as far as just removing them and they're still in good condition, no.
See, this is where we're seeking feedback. We can certainly edit the document to be more clear if there's confusion about the document. So that's why we're running it by everyone to get some feedback on that.
I think maybe add in this line 20 temporary decorate, because that's what we said, and then maybe take flags out, because you address flags early or up above in, where was it? You said if they become tattered or whatever, you'll take them down. In
Well, I hate to rush along, but we're certainly getting close to the time we needed to cut off. I would encourage everyone to that's on that subcommittee to review that document. And if you have any specific comments, definitely feel free to contact Brian and I in writing with those comments, and we'll collect those and we'll have them all ready for the next time we meet so we can speak to them specifically as a subcommittee and work on drafting a revised document that we can bring forward to the full commission.
Okay.
And I apologize for having to cut that short. I just realized it's getting close to 9:30. Rachel, I will turn it back over to you.
Yes, thank you everyone for your comments and recommendations for all of the subcommittees. I think we're doing a great job considering we've all been quarantined for the past 2 months. So our next item is consideration of federal line marker subcommittee members. And we talked about this in our March 12th, 2020 meeting at length, actually, about if we were going to move forward with the federal line project, that we needed full commission support, and that it was recommended that we should have a small subcommittee for the federal line.
I did want to say for the record, Tim Steelings had to step off the meeting. He had a conflict with a work obligation, so he apologizes.
Of course.
Would you like for me to
So Amanda, would you like to move forward with how we would like to go about considering the federal line marker subcommittee? Absolutely.
So the last time we all met, I did provide some information to you all about how the city would like to seek some Board of Mayor and Alderman support before this project moves forward in any capacity with either the TDOT approvals or and now in reconsidering any contact with any potential affected property owners as well, in light of just getting political support and also getting being safe in light of the COVID outbreak. So we would like to set up a subcommittee. The commission voted to set up a subcommittee at the last meeting, but we did not establish who those committee members would be. The purpose of the subcommittee would be to work with staff to determine if there's still funding and how that funding would move forward into the next year. Find out the cost of the project as it would or may have inflated into the current time, to identify the funding source for the project, and to take a conceptual map of the general locations to the Board of Mayor and Alderman for consideration. The presentation would need to show if those locations are on private property or on public property. And if the Board of Mayor and Alderman endorse the project, then we would need to move forward to contact any affected property owners, whether it's public property adjacent to private property, or if it's on private property and an easement would be necessitated in order to move forward with the project. So does anyone have any questions about what that would entail being on the subcommittee? We are looking for no more than 4 to 5 members.
This is Sam Gant. Of course, I've been working on that project for 15 years. And I'm very, very interested in it it's going forward. And of course, with this committee, we have only been on it for 5 years. But I think that as we consider it, by all means, we need to have our our Alderman representative in the committee as part of this committee.
Yes, and I think, this is Sam Huffman, we should make sure Eric is on that committee as well.
Well, I am reluctant to vote to have him on the subcommittee if he's not present to commit his
Okay.
time.
All right. But I would be willing to serve if you have trouble getting to 4. But as far as developing political support, I think having our alderman on the committee would be good. And I think we should, no matter, do it now, is make a marker, a obelisk, and get some pictures and do some promotion in the newspapers and all, because we need to have local citizens support the project and actually mention it to their alderman. You know, so there has to be a general approval before the alderman can do anything. So we need to do some education on what we're trying to accomplish. But we could make one out of plywood and go and sit around this, put it on the street someplace and take pictures. That wouldn't be a difficult thing to do.
Would Scott Speedy be willing to serve?
Yes, I'm willing to serve. I do agree with both Sams, though. I think we at least need to ask Eric Jacobson if he's willing to serve on this subcommittee. And then yeah, at the same time, obviously, this does need political help. Amanda, do we have any resolution yet on the other markers, or is that still kind of in the state and the wooden ones?
I don't have an update on that.
Gotcha. Okay.
It is
But yeah,
still,
I'm sorry, Kelly?
it is still ongoing, so we don't have an update on that. But our city administration would like just a high level concept to go to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, given that we're in an ongoing situation with other signage, to make sure that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen is supportive of this project and then going out to the public and involving property owners.
I would agree, especially in light we're still dealing with Chip in the center of the public square as well.
I have a concept drawing of the proposed marker that I'd be very glad to share with everybody.
That would be great.
Well, if you'd like to share that, with me, I'm happy to share that out. I believe I have it, but I'd be happy for you to share that with me just to confirm that I have the same thing that you have.
All right, I'd be glad to. I have suggested a slight alteration, partly to identify the marker better, and that is to place the picture of a cannon, and the silhouette of a cannon on the bottom of it to help identify the marker. And I'll send that to you soon.
But I do think that it's important to understand that we may not have the exact marker appearance finalized before we would have the conceptual locations to BOMA, because we just don't know what that might look like yet, because there are some requirements through TDOT for what those things need to be. We do need to make sure that we meet all the safety and clear zone and traffic regulations. We need to make sure that we have a product that can withstand maintenance requirements and needs and is durable. We also need to make sure that we have something that is economically feasible, so it's not something that we can we would need to worry about having to replace often. So
Some months ago, the actually probably some years ago now, the city engineering staff asked some certain requirements, and we assured them that those were met. And one was it's being a two-piece smaller marker, and the two pieces, so it will break down, should be struck by a vehicle and not prove to be a barrier or a danger.
I think it's important that we just have a general idea of what the marker would need to look like to meet the intent of the commission and the subcommittee rather, and then have a conceptual map with private and public locations identified. That would be the purpose of the subcommittee moving forward, and then we can get into the more finite details if there's support by BOMA. Kelly, do you agree?
Yes, it should be really high level and not even identifying any one specific property, just in general, so we know how many properties we're talking about, how many might be on public, how many might be on private, so that the board can understand some of the potential impact and look at what it could look like. We have gone back and forth with TDOT 2 or 3 times now in different submittals, and it's important that the monuments be breakaway, and there's a lot of detail that goes into what's acceptable in the right-of-way. But we've been trying to work through that, but we really want to get this back in front of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen so that we can get their input and okay on then going out to the public. Because while it's important to have public support, we want to make sure that our board is notified and on board first before doing that.
So while all the comments that you're making are very important, we want to encourage you to think very high level right now so that we can get the buy-in that the subcommittee and then the commission would need in order to move forward on the project. So it's very important that the board support it before any additional work is done. So with that, I would need a vote on who would need to be on that subcommittee. If Mr. Jacobson is requested to be on the subcommittee, just know that you can vote on him and confirm him on the subcommittee. But if he chooses not to act on the subcommittee, that would be something that we would just have to know that that's a possibility for him, as he's not here to speak to that.
This is Rich Buckner. I'm willing to serve on it if you got room for it.
I make a motion to vote on the 4 nominated here. Actually, the 5 nominated, the 4 that are present, plus Eric.
Can we clarify who those are, please?
Yeah, I believe Sam Huffman, Sam Gant, Rich Buckner, Scott Speedy, and Eric Jacobson, who is not present.
Sam Huffman, Sam Gant, Eric Jacobson, Scott Speedy, and
Rich Buckner.
Rich Buckner, thank you. Ms. Finch, were you planning on serving on that as well?
Yes, I would be happy to serve.
And Rachel Finn.
Oh.
I will second. Mary Pierce.
Thank you, Mary.
Do we need to vote?
Yes, we
Finch.
do. Yes, I'm about to go down the list. Steve Bacon. Did Steve have to drop off?
I believe so. I do hope we have 10 here to vote.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Rachel, what was the name? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It was Steve Bacon.
Okay, thank you.
I think
We do have a quorum.
We
Okay,
do have a
great.
quorum. So Steve is absent for this. Rich Buckner.
Yes.
Tom Cartwright, absent. Sam Gant,
Yes.
Sam Huffman,
Yes.
Sam Huffman.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Eric Jacobson is absent. Pam Lewis. Is Pam still here or did she drop off?
I think she dropped off.
Okay. Alma McLemore is absent. Mary Pierce.
Yes.
Clay Perry.
Yes.
Bob Ravner.
Yes.
Alan Sims.
Yes.
Scott Speedy.
Yes.
Tim Stillings. He had to drop off. Megan Weisinger. I believe.
Megan, are you available to vote? You're on mute.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Blake Wintry. Blake.
Just give a thumbs up or down. Okay.
Yes.
He's confirming yes.
Yes. Rachel Finch, yes. And Mr. David Egan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the subcommittee will be Mr. Huffman, Dr. Gant, Eric Jacobson, if he consents, Alderman Speedy, Rich Buckner, and Chair Finch. I will be in contact with all of you to determine how we move forward. Thank you very much for your time today.
Okay, and very quickly, the Parks Department updates.
The only additional thing that I have is that we have been awarded a grant from the state regarding cemetery or ironwork at City Cemetery, doing some preservation on. We're meeting with a few folks from the state, or talking to a few folks from the state this afternoon to answer any questions they may have, but hopefully we're able to get started on that project very, very soon. That's all I have.
Alan, are you excited? Alan, I thought that would make your day. We got the iron grant.
He's on mute, I think.
He looks excited.
He looks real excited. I know he's been really hyped about getting the ironwork done, so we're really excited about it.
Yay!
Okay, thank you so much, Brian. Any organizational announcements? I know
I do.
There's so much that's been closed down. So Ms. Mary, what do you have?
Okay, you're going to see the Spivey House be demolished in the next couple of days. And we did harvest the flooring from that house that will be going in the McLemore house. Yay, heart pine flooring. Will be replacing what we had to do at the time, which was some crazy fake vinyl flooring. So we're very excited about that. And the McLemore House, the African American Heritage Society, received a grant from the Tennessee Historical Commission for work on the exterior in the amount of, I think it's about $25,000. And during this pandemic, we've raised another $25,000 and think we have another $20,000 committed. So we are working with Ford Classic Homes to do the restoration of the exterior, and Mr. Bill Powell, who is a noted preservation contractor, is going to be making sure we select the right materials on that. And of course the state will too, because there's grant money involved and it's in the historic overlay. So we've got lots of protection for it. It's very exciting, long overdue.
That's great news.
That's so awesome. I'm glad to hear that you
Wonderful.
guys got the grant. That's amazing.
Yes.
Franklin got 3 I know of. That's amazing.
That's amazing because they don't have that much money.
I know.
No. Anyone else?
I guess the other thing to say, our dear friend and Commissioner Alma McLemore, as we mentioned before, the service for her last sibling and last original family member, the visitation will be this afternoon, I think at 2 at Waters Funeral Home, and just have her in your thoughts and prayers.
We will. Thank you for sharing that, Miss Mary. Okay, so before we adjourn, Kelly has an announcement to make.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Just for the record, there have been no call-ins from the public and no emails in our planning intake folder for today's meeting.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for sticking through the entire commission meeting today. It's been really great to see everyone who made the time to Zoom in or call in for our Civil War Historical Commission meeting. So may I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Sam Gant, I so move.
Sam Huffman, I second it, but I think we should thank Kelly and Amanda for setting up this Zoom arrangement here. And for all the travails we had, it worked really pretty well.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Amanda and
Great
Kelly.
job. Great job for everyone. I had
gonna-
trouble getting in initially on the test, but it's worked fine today.
Wonderful. So before we adjourn, I do have to take roll one more time. So please, when you hear your name, say yes.
And
or
this
no-
is
or no.
the vote to adjourn.
This is the vote to adjourn. Steve Bacon had to leave for a business call. He is absent. Rich Buckner.
Yes.
Thank you. Tom Cartwright is absent. Mr. Sam Gant.
Yes.
Mr. Sam Huffman.
Yes.
Thank you. Eric Jacobson is absent. Miss Pam Lewis.
I think she dropped off.
Absent. Miss Alma McLemore is absent. Miss Mary Pierce.
Here, yes, I'm in favor of adjourning.
Mr. Clay Perry.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Bob Ravner.
Yes.
Mr. Alan Sims.
Yes.
Mr. Scott Speedy.
Just like my Boma vote, reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Tim Stillings has had to roll off for another call. Absent. Miss Megan Weisinger.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Blake Wintry.
Yes.
Rachel Finch says yes. And Mr. David Egan.
Yes.
Well, you guys are lucky you had a quorum. You would have had to be stuck on this meeting forever if you didn't have a quorum. You'd be stuck with Kelly and me forever.
I think we could all handle that.
We'd be happy to have you.
We could do that.
That's a really cool picture, Rick Buckner. You took that yourself?
I did.
Wow.
Beautiful.
One foggy morning down in Carnton.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, is that like stock on there? That looks like our Confederate cemetery. Surely not. So it's beautiful.
It is.
That's award winning. Next time we have a preservation opportunity for photos, please send that in.
It is Preservation Month. Reluctantly, we weren't able to do our photo contest this year because of the outbreak. Keep that in mind for next year.
Yeah.
We'll try to do some preservation outreach for October for Planning Month.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for spending your
everyone.
morning with us. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week, and I'll be in touch soon with some follow up on things. I appreciate you all, and I wish you all just the best and staying safe. Thank you.
Blue Angels fly over at noon.
Yes, they do. Blue
right.
Angels at
Right.
noon.
That's right. Everybody stay safe.
Stay safe.
Thanks.
Talk to
See
you
ya.
soon.
Enjoyed seeing you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.